So what was the story with the baboons?
Right. So this was the first time in Kenya, and like in Australia, I'd never had any kind of experience with baboons. We don't have primates in Australia,
Right.
And it's funny because a stone throw away like Papua New Guinea and Indonesia, we've got primates, but Australia, the Australian continent's quite unique in the fact that we don't. The closest thing probably to a primate would be, I don't know, like maybe like a possum that we got. I think that would probably be the closest thing. So essentially. I went to Africa and had like a list of all these animals that I wanted to catch. This was the first time I was there, and a savanna baboon was one of them. And I remember going into a wildlife, it was like a dingy wildlife park, and I met up with two young guys there. And I said, oh, look, I'd like to learn how to handle a wild baboon. And these two African guys look at each other, and they're like, "Okay, we can help. This is good. This is a life lesson."
Is that something people typically would want to do? Is catch baboons? No, we have no interest in catching baboons.
No, this is a good life lesson, and I think for anyone traveling to Africa, I think they'll hear this analogy, or people who live in Africa will hear this analogy, and they'll just laugh. They'll just get it. So I was with these two very enthusiastic African young men, and they're like, "Oh, we've got some baboons here. We can show you." And I said, "Okay." So I went into the zoo, and anyway, it was like kind of this dingy menagerie where they had these, these baboons, and they were somewhat habituated. And I said, "Oh yeah, cool." I said, "Oh, you guys know how to handle?" "Oh yeah, we do a lot of the handling here, and I've caught hundreds of them before," and gave me the whole spiel on his professionalism of handling baboons and stuff. And I said, okay, is there any way that we can like try and catch like a wild one? He goes, yeah, sure. He goes, actually, at the back of the zoo, we've got like a bit of like a cage trap that we can set up. And I remember, so we go down the back of the zoo, and I had another guy that was with me that was filming, and I employed just like a street kid to film. Actually, this was one of the documentaries that I got up on Netflix.
Oh, really?
Yes. It was like a 14-year-old street kid, and I taught him how to like use a camera. He filmed the
That's badass, dude.
He filmed the entire thing. He filmed the entire thing, and this kid was fearless. Like whenever I was like, "Right, elephant charging, I need you behind me filming," he'd be like, "Yep." He was
That's sick.
He was a yes man.
That's cool.
He was a yes man. So anyway,
and he's a local.
And he was a local, so he could speak the tongue. So anyway, I felt like he should have been my first cue, because he was kind of smirking a bit suspicious about all this whole ordeal. And anyway, went down there to the back of the zoo, and there's this big cage trap that's set up there. And anyway, we bait it with like pumpkin and everything else. And the guy's like, okay, we'll catch you. We'll give you a call. And we're only about 20 minutes out of town. I remember that morning, it was like 5:30 in the morning. Early, sunrise. I get a call. "Andrew, we have a baboon." That was literally the thing. I said, "Oh, great, fantastic." I said, we'll be down there. And anyway, so I remember getting there, and early morning, and this thing is going wild. As soon as it spots eyes with us, this thing is like shaking the cage, and I'm talking like a cage not much bigger than this table, right? Mm-hmm. About a metre off the ground, and it's going absolutely wild. And my heart starts racing, a bit like the honey badger. Starts racing. I'm thinking, how the fuck are we going to get control of this animal?
How much do you think it weighed?
Maybe about 14 kilos.
What? Kilos?
14, 15 kilos. Oh, what do you guys use?
God damn it. We use pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand metric system.
Like a small child?
Okay.
Yeah, like a...
How many kilos are in a pound?
Like a 2-year-old? Oh, mate, I don't know. You're going back to my science days. You're really going to get me here, right?
Oh, God, do we really have to Google this? Steve, you don't know the answer?
No.
1 pound is 0.4 kilos.
So 14 kilos, 6 pounds.
So 6 pounds. Okay, got it. 16 pounds. 6 pounds. That's like a newborn.
Yeah. Oh well, about a 2-year-old kid.
Okay,
this is a decent animal. And so savanna baboon, muzzle like a dog. I'm not sure if you've seen the savanna baboons. So if you type savanna baboon, that's a savanna baboon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that interesting individual right there. And so this baboon's going absolutely wild, and the birds are flying and all this kind of stuff, and they start talking in their own tongue. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what's going on here? And the guy's like, oh, we're going to use it. It's like a stick with kind of like a fork kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I said to myself, what we're going to do is this. I want you to teach me how to handle this. I was about 24, 25 years old. I want to teach me how to handle this, but then we're going to put it back in the cage trap, and then I'm going to do it by myself. The worst mistake, this has come into the 2 times that I didn't film, is the worst mistake that I made was not recording him teaching me how to handle the baboon. Right. Because I'm supposed to be, this guy that's a know-it-all, and I'm going to come in, I'm going to show how it's done, and da-da-da. So
you wanted to pretend like you knew what you were doing.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Which I do a lot of the time. And anyway, so I remember I set up the camera, I set it on the tripod, and the guy's like, right, get up there on top of the cage and lift up the cage door. I said, okay. So as soon as I do that, now I remember there was only gaps on the mesh like so, and this thing straight away was trying to grab my feet. It was trying to bite me through the cage, and like they've got some teeth on them. This is a gnarly animal. And anyway, it's trying to psych me out. It's making all these crazy noises and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I eventually managed to get the cage door up, and the guy grabs it by the tail. And I remember just watching it grab the sides of the cage door, and the cage doors are like flexing in and out just based on the power of the animal. And at this point in time, I'm thinking, there's no way. There's no humanly way possible we're going to get control of this animal. It's just not even. And I was paying them for this. Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, they've got this thing by the tail. They're pulling out. This thing's screaming and going off. And anyway, they eventually pull it out. And I'm thinking to myself at that point in time, like, these animals are ambidextrous, and they can probably use their tail the same way as their feet, right, as like a leverage point, like a primate does. So anyway, I've almost got to like explain it. So he's got it by the tail, and he's holding out like this, and this thing's going crazy, and it's like trying to grab him. And then he's saying to his mate, quick, like try and pin it down with a stick. Anyway, in all this craziness, it's kind of worked out that because of the sheer weight of this animal, it can't pull itself up by its tail. So he's got it by the tail, and it's trying to pull itself up, but like gravity's working against. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking to myself, oh, well, maybe we've got a bit of a chance here. Anyway, I'm still on the cage at this point in time, and I've jumped down and I'm saying to him, like, what can I do? How can I help? How can I help? And as he's trying to maneuver into position, what it does is it grabs the sides of the cage and goes, right, well, if I can't get you that way, I know how I'm going to get you. And it pulls itself towards the cage and then just goes, boonk, like jumps off the cage back onto him. And I mean, it happened like that. And so automatically it's went for his face. And what he's done is he's put his arm like that straight in front. Mm-hmm. And so the baboons grab him and it's bitten him on the arm. But as it's bitten him, he's turned to me. So all I'm seeing now is the back of a baboon in front of me. And my instinct straight away is like, I've got to help this. The guy's screaming, the baboon's screaming. There's just the worst energy in the world, and I've grabbed this thing by the tail and I've started pulling as hard as I could to rip this thing off. And I just remember the sheer strength of that animal holding on to him. Once again, I thought to myself, there was no way we were going to get this animal under control. Impossible. It was just too powerful. The power in this animal, quite literally. Anyway, pulling, and then finally the animal's released, and as it's released, it's hit the ground and tried to go for me, right? And I reckon I was maybe inches from being bitten as well. Anyway, it took off the tree, and his went off in shock, screaming, and I said, turn around, show me how bad it is. I need to see how bad it is. And he's went like this, and he's done like a real slow like that. And like when you take like a bite out of an apple, but it's not like a complete bite, and it's like a flap kind of hanging.
Yes. Just dangling off
and just like bleeding. I'm pissing blood. So I took my shirt straight off. I'm like trying to like stop the bleeding and stuff. And I said to my my guy, quick, run up to the car and get the first aid kit. We need to get him to hospital.
Right.
Anyway, so we end up getting him to hospital. He ends up getting, and this is how the story unfolds. Okay, first of which, he was only volunteering at the park. He'd never handled a baboon before. He had no inoculations whatsoever. He had no money, obviously. It was a life lesson going to Africa because I feel... have you heard of what they call it, the African promise?
Yeah.
They'll promise you the world.
Oh, no, the African promise? No,
yeah,
I haven't heard
it's
that.
Like, yeah. If you ask one of those like street kids, can you help me? Can you do something for me? It doesn't matter what it is, they can do it. It's 100% I can do it. And I thought what was absolutely comical, there could be a jet sitting outside and I could be like, hey mate, I need to, take a flight to Copenhagen. Like, can you fly the jet? And you look at the jet and be like, yes, I can fly the jet.
We'll figure it out.
And all this, he's only watched like a trailer of Top Gun, but no, he's a professional. You know what I mean? And yeah, so it was one of those learning curves that you just be very careful when asking people for help in Africa, because a lot of times people will tell you that they're an instant expert, and it can get you into a lot of trouble
because they want to make money.
Of course,
right?
Yeah. So I thought that was definitely a big learning curve.